Another summer and another round of conference realignment. Only this time, the Big 12 is in a position of power, and they are competing with the ACC for the title of the best of the rest. Welcome to the Jersey Score. My name is Trevor, and after a hiatus from making videos, I had to jump back into it because this round of conference realignment is too nuts, and the possibilities are endless at this point. And so today we're going to be looking at what options the Big 12 and the ACC have as they kind of vie for positions of power as kind of the best of the rest. And we all know that the Big Ten and the SEC are really the ones in power here, making the bulk of the money. But who's going to come out of it, out of the rest of the conferences on top? Starting with the ACC, and we see which programs are members. You would say, well, yeah, they have much bigger name brands than the Big 12 does, and they also have a grant of rights that locks them in for over another decade. And so really it's going to be hard to peel those programs away. So you could say, plus the partnership with Notre Dame. So you could say the ACC is really in a strong position that they're kind of right there after the Big Ten and the SEC. But I'm not completely sure that's true, because if we look at it, because they have those big name brands, it makes them very desirable. And also, they're such a good fit to fill out those two conferences. While it does seem that they're locked in, I do see the Big Ten and the SEC coming after them. And it will be hard, but I think when there's that much money on the table, there's always a way to make these work. I can imagine a scenario where the Big Ten come in and take programs like Notre Dame, UNC, Duke, UVA, and the SEC taking perhaps Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and let's say Virginia Tech. Now, I'm not saying that's where those programs will go if they leave. It's just a hypothetical. And you look at, but I do think that those are the most desirable programs remaining. You could argue about the Virginia schools or some others. So let's just say in this scenario, we look at what's left, and it's not, there's not a lot there. A lot of these programs were even in the Big East not that long ago. And so we look at what are the ACC's options for expansion. And naturally you'd think, well, there's some Big Ten schools that seem to fit this footprint for the ACC better. Maybe they're able to pull them away. I just think if the ACC gets raided, I don't think they're going to be coming from a position of power to talk these schools into leaving the Big 12, which is just stabilized, and Cincinnati and UC have just joined, gave them the chance to finally move up to the big boys, and then to ditch them to go to a very weakened ACC. The only reason why I would see that is if the money was going to be similar and they like the fit regionally. Perhaps West Virginia and Cincinnati would like to revive some of those old rivalries. So I wouldn't rule it out completely. It just seems like the Big 12 as it's currently built, or a weakened ACC, that seems unlikely. In addition to the Big 12 schools, or as another route, they could go after remaining AAC schools, much like the Big 12 did, and try to pull some of those programs away. You see East Carolina, maybe not, because they've already got two of the remaining programs in North Carolina. They may want to expand further than that. I don't know if Navy hasn't joined a conference for football yet. I don't know if that would be really a convincing argument for them, but perhaps they would do it with their other sports. That might make sense. Now Memphis, a little bit farther out there, but again, at this point, the ACC would be in kind of not very strong position to be too choosy. So these are some good options that the ACC would have regionally, and they would be an all right conference. Not bad, but certainly not the best of the rest if the Big 12 still looks as it does now. Another route for the ACC is this alliance with the Pac-12. It seems that that's kind of falling apart. I don't know. Nobody seems to have a lot of confidence in it. And now there's some talk that it wouldn't be the full Pac-12, that it would just be select schools in Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Utah. And I don't know how that would work. If they couldn't pull them in as full members, because I think that would affect the grant of rights for the ACC, which would then allow the Big Ten and SEC to come in and poach other schools. So it seems like that would be counterintuitive. I don't know how they'll make it work, but it seems like there's something, at least some smoke right now with that. So that is a possibility. Again, with the Big Ten going all the way to LA, at this point, anything is on the table. So we'll see what the ACC is able to do. Now, the Big 12, the big story last year was how the Big 12 was going to dissolve and then how they stabilized. So now, as they're looking at the Pac 12 in dire straits and the ACC, everyone talking about them being the next one on the chopping block. Now the Big 12 is in a position to look to poach other programs. And everyone's been talking about the four corner state schools, so you would add Utah, Arizona State, and Colorado. Now, it does seem that Utah, lately, the word has been that they've had some cold feet, and that could be related to this conversation about those four schools wanting to do team up with the ACC. So that could be part of the reason for that. But everyone thinks that would make the most sense for the Big 12. Obviously, there's Washington and Oregon, and for me, I think if the Big 12 can take the Northwest schools as well, why not expand your footprint? They're really top programs. Even on one video I was listening to, they'd mentioned bring them in and let them know that there's no exit fees or anything, so there's no risk for them. They can come in now and be there, and you'll take them as long as you'll have them, as long as they'll be there. And then if somebody else comes calling and takes them away, fine, but you still get the benefit of them being there for the meantime. And there's the chance that nobody ever comes calling for them, and then you get two big name brands like that. So for me, it makes sense to try to add Oregon and Washington too. It seems low risk. Bring them in now, even if they leave eventually, because it seems like they bring a lot of value, potentially even more value than those other four corner state schools. So I think you really look at adding wherever there's value. And because of that, I don't know why the Big 12 wouldn't at least have the conversation with Stanford and Cal as well. They do not seem to have as many options right now, so why not look at it, get you into California, in the Bay Area, and some really great schools with programs that have been strung throughout the years. And now Cal, not as much of late, but certainly there could be some value there. So I don't know why you don't at least have the conversation if you're the Big 12. So looking at the final top 25 rankings from last year, we see that the ACC had 4 schools, the Big Ten had 4 schools, the SEC has 6 schools, if you're counting Oklahoma, since kind of looking forward here, that the Big 12, if they were to able to add these Pac-12 schools, all the four corner state schools as well as the Northwest schools, that would give them 7 programs in the top 25 from this year. Now, that's not saying that those same programs or that they'll still have 7 programs in the top 25 every year, but there is some real value there in having that many programs that really could compete there. I think the Big 12 is going strong after it. We'll see if ultimately they're successful, but it seems like they do want to be aggressive. And the good news for them that if they're not able to pull any of those schools away but still feel like they have to expand, there's still the programs that they were looking at last year. The top programs that have continually been discussed were Boise State, Memphis, SMU, and USF. And so I don't know if all of them would be there. Perhaps if they're not able to pull away the Pac-12, Boise State, maybe even SMU, I don't know, would be in the Pac-12. But I still think that the Big 12 would have plenty of options after that. So it really does seem that they are coming at this from a position of power, looking to expand, and not really in as much threat of getting picked off this time around. So let me know what you think. Who's going to come out ahead, the ACC or the Big 12? And what are they going to look like in a few years? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe. And if you haven't already, check out the other videos that we've done covering this round of conference realignment. And we'll see you next time.